But let's get into some WWE or wrestling. Favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. I will go first. The I Quit match between him and John Cena.
Ooh.
Talk about bloodshed in that match between Cena and Bradshaw Layfield. Remember that chair shot that John Bradshaw Layfield gave Cena? Kind of like how he gave Eddie Guerrero with all that blood coming out. And then Bradshaw as the heel just like, remember, he was grabbing those cords and strangling John Cena's neck, and then he was telling John Cena quit, and Cena's like, hell no.
Oh.
And then my other favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. Do you remember when when John Cena poured a bunch of fish guts on John Bradshaw Layfield on SmackDown? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
because that was the night Cena introduced the Spinner WWE Championship.
Yes, that was the night in which he introduced the new WWE Championship, the Spin one. And my other favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. Man. The No Way Out match between him and the Big Show. The barbed wire steel cage matches. I mean, that was a really good match between the two. And of course, how last week we talked about Teddy Long. Champ talked about tonight you will go one-on-one with the Undertaker. So yeah, John Bradshaw Layfield as a heel, man, he was very underrated as a heel. I mean, he had to deal with Eddie Guerrero, he had to deal with Cena, he had to deal with Booker T, he had to deal with Taker, he had to deal with a lot of them cats down in SmackDown. But as a heel, Bradshaw was great. But Champ, I'm gonna let you go.
First of all, people keep talking about finishers in wrestling history. The clothesline from hell.
Yep.
Is one of the more better finishers in wrestling history, especially when he hit Billy Gunn with it, because he almost just tears him from his senses every time he hit Billy Gunn with the clothesline from hell. I mean, it just comes out of nowhere, you know. Remember when he clotheslined from hell, Rey Mysterio as he came off the ropes?
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, that's one of the more underrated finishing moves in the wrestling history. Number one. Look, as a heel, if you look at certain things in the news right about now, and you look at Bradshaw Layfield back in 2004, Bradshaw was years ahead of his time. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, if you think I'm lying, go look at some of the stuff that's happening on the news right now and put that side by side with John Bradshaw Layfield back in 2004 right now. There's literally no difference in it. There's no difference. It's like, you know, both just rich guys with all this bravado. You know, everybody knew that Bradshaw was this tough guy. And it's just like, you know, like I said, if you know, you know. Because as a heel, it's kind of like, as I watch the news sometimes, it's kind of like, is that, you know who was that Bradshaw right there? That's how I look at it at this point in time, because it's so similar at a certain point, man. It's very, very similar. Favorite Bradshaw Layfield moment? This is a hard one. Well, you know what? I gotta say, before the days of JBL, I gotta say when he was with the APA, man. You know, when he was with the APA, the Aqualite Protection Agency, I know he wasn't the JBL as a heel, but them as entertainment was theater. Him and Farouk was flat out theater, man. And, you know, because they reminded you of the everyday guys that sit behind the bar and they play cards all day, and everybody know not to mess with these guys. So especially when they got into that, especially when they had the bar fight with the Easter Bunny hopping into the bar at a certain point on SmackDown. That was one of the more memorable moments. Another memorable moment, the entire run in 2004, because we was just waiting on him to lose a match. And I especially thought that he was about to lose that last. I was like, Taker got him right where he wants him in that last ride match. They got him right where he wants him in that last ride match. And for him to come out like that, I mean, in typical heel fashion, it's just like you waiting for this guy to lose. I mean, one of the longest reigning SmackDown champions in history. You're waiting on him to lose, and he doesn't. And so that entire run of 2004 as a heel, very underrated. And guess what, man? Look, for you to win a last ride match, to win a Texas Bull Rope match, to beat Booker T and all of those guys to piggyback off of PSP, that was one of the more impressive runs in wrestling history. So that entire run in 2004 was great. I mean, the segments with the APA, with, you know, them fighting in the bar is great. Them winning the tag team championships because they were a powerhouse as a team, especially when they were feuding with the Dudleys. That was great as well. Shout out to John Bradshaw Layfield, man. And make it so crazy, he's smart like that in real life. I mean,
he is.
That wasn't just a gimmick that he was playing. It was, he really knows stocks, bonds, all of that stuff. I mean, when you talk about living your gimmick and knowing who you are, that's him in real life. He knows his stuff as far as portfolios is concerned. His stock brain was up there. I mean, was up there with the Wall Street clients, #1 for years.
BRF.
Yeah, JBL is definitely one of the more underrated characters of our time. I mean, yeah, his heel work in 2004 was something SmackDown really needed, because even though that time they were built around the SmackDown 6, but then at the same time it's like you needed that one heel to still really stand out and kind of like, you know, be that, kind of set the tone. And when he finally got the ball, he was able to do it. I mean, of course, obviously that infamous incident that we don't need to talk about. If you know, you know. You know what? I'm gonna say this. This is funny though. One of my favorite, I hate to say it, but one of my favorite JBL moments was he was on. For one, he was on the receiving end of one of the greatest shoot promos in the history of the business. Paul Heyman, ECW One Night Stand 2005. I mean, he was on the receiving end of one of the greatest burns in the history of the business. Well, Paul Heyman looked that man dead in the face and he said, "The only reason why you were WWE champion for years because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays." But it was like, it was like the reaction. It was the reaction after he said that, because you're not about to sit here and tell me any average man would hear something like that and their world just wouldn't be like shook for like the next month. But it was like the reaction afterwards, like he just took it in stride and kept pushing, like, you know, kind of like doing his best Fred Sanford impersonation, faking like he's having a heart attack, like oh my goodness, like just typical heel fashion. Like it's like he ate it and kept going, and that was another thing that kind of made the character stand out. But if I have to go, like my all-time favorite JBL moment, it was like, we know about the heel run, we know about the APA run. I mean, well, okay, any clothesline from hell against Billy Gunn, like, just chef's kiss. But like one thing we don't talk about is his announcer run, because even though it did get kind of a little stale and a little boring after like a while at the beginning, like it was fun when he became a commentator, but he had this one particular moment where I think it was it was Heath Slater going on his little legend run, and now he was just losing to like all the legends. And so this particular one, Lita showed up, and Heath Slater gets tickled because Lita. Nah, Lita brings the APA in. And then JBL proceeds to hit the clothesline from hell on Heath Slater. It puts you in the mind of that Shawn Michaels sale against Psycho Sid, that Royal Rumble in San Antonio, where Sid puts the boot up and Shawn basically does a full roll and literally does a headstand on his head to sell that boot. That's what that that's what that Heath Slater sell was like. Like he literally rode up on his shoulders, on his neck, and his feet was literally like dangling in the air before he finally came back down. It was the Heath Slater sell of that clothesline more than anything. That just was like, I literally laughed for like 10 minutes after that. I was like, you know what, Heath Slater, you got destroyed, but you know what? I salute you, sir, because that clothesline from hell had no business to look that good, and you made it look amazing. So shout out to Heath Slater. But yeah, man, JBL is like definitely like he's a very underrated character with moments that would get him canceled if he did it today. So definitely shout out to him, and shout out for the work he's doing now, being back, doing wrestling and stuff like that, like MLW, TNA. Shout out to him for what he's doing now. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's a heel or a face, but shout out to him because he's still showing that clothesline from hell is still one of the most devastating finishers in the history of the business.
Grant?
Well, JBL is one of those characters that you look at it and you either loved him or you hated him. And I think one of the craziest moments for me, the moment that like kind of solidifies it for me of how much of a heel he was, Eddie Guerrero in that Texas Bull Rope match when Eddie hit the turnbuckle at the end, but JBL hit his back on it first. So technically by default, JBL won the title, and everyone in that crowd was pissed because no one liked JBL because he's like that one kid who always wants to rub in your face about how much money he's got, and everyone loved Eddie. They wanted Eddie to win. And the biggest thing that people always hated about JBL, man, every time he always would think that the chances of him losing that title would be over. He have his corporate goons to come out and they drag him out. They beat everyone up. They get the match called off. It'd be a DQ. Everybody be mad. Teddy Long made him fight The Undertaker, Booker T, John Cena, and all those dudes in one match, and they still found a way to lose. And at that point, it was just like, JBL just has this way of like making you mad. And it's like, because some of the stuff he's done, including some stuff, we don't got to go down that route, but he is just the craziest character. And the APA, you want to talk about the definition of the wrestling gangsters? These dudes were like, you want me to beat somebody up? Bet how, and they throw $1,000 on the table. And him and Ron Simmons look at each other. All right, they pick up the chairs and just start walking to the ring. And at this point, these boys were hilarious. And JBL is probably one of those crazy characters. And apparently he's been showing up at a few indie shows just randomly out of the blue. Not doing like actually wrestling, but like, just showing up and being on the side. And, seeing that like people will still give him that huge round of applause just shows how much of impact JBL has, man. He's one of those really iconic heels that you never really forget sometimes.
Yeah, man. He definitely, I hated him. I was a diehard Eddie Guerrero fan. The moment when he won that match against Eddie Guerrero in the Great American Bash, I was furious. I was upset, man. But a lot of people couldn't stand Bradshaw Layfield because of all the points that Grant alluded to. From New York City, driving the limousine, the team that he had from Orlando Jordan, the Basham brothers, and how they always interfered in his matches. But he was a great heel. No question about it.
Ironic that faction was called the Cabinet of all things.
Oh,
You ain't lying there, champ. You ain't lying there.
That faction was called the Cabinet